sometimes that we tend to treat professional development like a luxury instead of a necessity, like something we'll get to when we have time rather than something that we've got to make time for. So here's why this matters more than you think. The world of work is changing faster than ever. The skills that got you to where you are today won't automatically or necessarily be the skills that take you where you want to go tomorrow. Research shows that 75% of careers are derailed, not by lack of technical expertise, but by a lack of emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills. Yet, how many of us have a specific plan for developing these crucial capabilities? I think we all should. Welcome. You're listening to This Leader, the podcast. If you lead people and are seeking the transformational, high-impact secrets that will lead to greater joy and fulfillment in your work, will optimize your team performance, and will help you create a happy, highly productive workplace, then you are this leader and you're in the right place. I'm your host, Claire Laughlin, and each week my guests and I will explore the mindsets, techniques, and actionable strategies that will help you build the career, team, and organization of your dreams. Because I believe no one should have to suffer in a dysfunctional workplace. Let's get started. Hi there. Welcome to This Leader. Hey, what are you reading right now? What are you learning? How are you growing? As leaders, we know that learning is essential, right? But so often we leave our learning to chance or we squeeze it in between all the other things. I'm convinced that we don't give it its rightful position on our calendars. I mean, to be the best leader of leading yourself or leading others, we need to be curious and growth-oriented and willing to evolve in our perspective of things, right? And it's hard because we're often called upon to be the experts, to have the answers. And furthermore, as we develop, in age and in our careers, we accumulate lots of experience, and it's easy to fall into the trap of feeling like, okay, I've got this, right? I know all I need to know. But personally, I'm convinced that when our points of view start to, harden, that's when we really age, get old. Personally, I'm super inspired on my learning journey right now because my youngest son just graduated from college, and both my boys are young in their careers, and they're learning so much. And I love to watch that happen. Fortunately, they have great mentors who are really helping them develop. And honestly, I hope that all of you listening are looking for that fresh new talent that's coming on the market and opening yourselves up to mentor someone early in their career. But also today, I hope to inspire you to make a learning plan for yourself and to be really proactive about taking the reins. Because we're going to talk about why professional development so often gets pushed to the back burner and why that's actually dangerous for your career. And most importantly, how to make growth happen by design instead of by accident. Because here's what I know after nearly 30 years of working with leaders. The ones who thrive aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who are intentional about their growth. So Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, in their book, The Leadership Challenge, and I facilitate this program a lot, so I see this quote often, they say, the best leaders are the best learners. And that really resonates with me. So let's dive in. Let me start with a story that illustrates exactly what I mean. Last month, I was working with a new director, and she's brilliant, hardworking, and people respect her and look up to her. But she and I were having this conversation, and she was feeling stuck. And she said, okay, Claire, I don't really know how to approach this new role of mine. I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. And when I asked her about her learning and development plan, like how will you prepare yourself for this role specifically? I asked, how are you developing new skills do you need for this role? And she laughed. She said, what learning and development plan? I'm working as fast as I can just to figure out what I'm supposed to do every day. And I mean, I read leadership articles when I can. I listen to podcasts like yours when I'm commuting. But otherwise, I don't have a structured approach. Does that sound familiar? this director had fallen into what I call accidental learning, which is the belief that if we just expose ourselves to good content, growth will naturally follow. But here's the problem with that approach. Without intention, without a plan, we end up being consumers of our development rather than architects of our growth. So think about it this way. If I asked you about your team's quarterly goals, well, hopefully you could rattle them off. And if I asked you about your department's budget, you'd probably know the numbers. But if I asked you about your specific professional development goals for this year and how you're measuring progress, well, that might be a different story. And this isn't in any way about being lazy or not caring about growth, because most leaders I work with are voracious learners. The issue is sometimes that we tend to treat professional development like a luxury instead of a necessity, like something we'll get to when we have time, rather than something that we've got to make time for. So here's why this matters more than you think. The world of work is changing faster than ever. The skills that got you to where you are today won't automatically or necessarily be the skills that take you where you want to go tomorrow. And I'm not just talking about technical skills, though, of course, those are very important. I'm talking about the leadership competencies that separate good leaders from great ones. So research from the Center for Creative Leadership shows that 75% of careers are derailed, not by lack of technical expertise, but by a lack of emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills. Yet, how many of us have a specific plan for developing these crucial capabilities? I think we all should. So here's what happens when we don't have an intentional development plan. First, we become reactive learners. We seek out growth when we're faced with a challenge that we can't handle. By then, it's kind of crisis learning, not strategic learning, and often we don't have time to go deep. Second, we kind of develop randomly. We might pick up bits and pieces here and there, but there's not as much coherence as there could be, and there's no building on your previous learning necessarily. And third, we risk becoming irrelevant, not because we're not smart or capable, but because we haven't quite kept pace with the evolving demands of leadership. So I want to really acknowledge something here. Many of you listening are parents of teenagers or young adults, and you're constantly encouraging your kids to learn and to grow and to try new things, right? But here's my question. What are you modeling for them about lifelong learning? Are you modeling what you want to be modeling for them? When they see you approach your development intentionally, when they see you setting learning goals and celebrating your growth and struggling with new concepts or evolving your perspective, you're teaching them something really valuable about what it means to be a continuous learner. So keep that in mind. So how do we shift from accidental learning to intentional development? I want to emphasize that accidental learning is actually not a bad thing. In fact, I'd like to share my own struggle with this because it might surprise you. My problem with learning is that I love learning so much that honestly, I've said this my whole life, if I had unlimited time and money, I would probably do nothing but take courses and attend workshops and try new things. And I don't know, I've thought about getting PhDs and all kinds of things just because I would do that. I love that. Because my challenge isn't, personally finding the motivation to learn. It's focusing my attention and putting a lid on my learning in a sense so that I can go deep instead of being scattered across 20 different growth areas at once. So does that sound familiar to any of you? Sometimes our enthusiasm for development can actually work against us if we don't channel that enthusiasm strategically. So that is exactly why I created what I'm calling the Professional Development Planner. And I'm going to walk you through the key elements of that right now, because this framework has been a real game changer for me and the leaders I work with. And FYI, go to the show notes and you can pick up the link to that planner. So strategy number 1. Let's talk about strategy number 1. Start with clarity about where you are going. Most people approach professional development backwards. They see an interesting course or a workshop and they think, hey, that looks good. I should take that. And there's definite value in exploring our interests. So please don't let me discourage you from that. But if that's your only approach, it would be like getting in your car every day and just driving around, but really never getting to know the roads or the landscape. So, in addition to this kind of exploration, which again, I highly recommend, always follow your interests. But in addition to that, I want you to start with this question. Where do you want to be in your career in the next 2 to 3 years? And don't think just about the title that you want, but think about the type of work you want to be doing, the level of impact you want to have, and the kind of leader you want to become. Do the simple exercise. Write down your current role and responsibilities, because this is a great way to get more role clarity, by the way. And then write down your desired future role and look at the gap. What skills, experiences, or capabilities do you need to bridge that gap? And this isn't about climbing the corporate ladder for the sake of climbing. This is about being intentional about the leader you want to become and the impact you want to make. For example, in my business, I'm very happy with the way my team and I work together and the things we're doing. But in 2 to 3 years, I have goals that will help us expand our reach without expanding our team. So that leads me to a gap. How will we get more effective and efficient? How will we achieve greater reach without adding more people? And right now, for example, we're exploring AI as a means to create greater efficiency and looking to automate some of our processes to free ourselves up for the more deeper, research and strategic work that we want to do. Strategy number 2 is to focus on core competencies for your level. And here's something I've learned from working with leaders across all levels in organizations. There are certain competencies that matter most at each stage of your career. No matter what your stage is, people are looking to you to spend your time in certain ways and to have certain skills, right? And then when you advance, they look at you differently and they ask you to spend your time differently. They ask you to demonstrate different capabilities. And so often we are promoted because we're really good at our role, but we're not thinking about how to develop into that next level so that we're meeting expectations for the next level. Let me give you an example. If you're an individual contributor, your focus should be on really building that self-awareness about your patterns and propensities. You should be really leaning into building your emotional intelligence and ensuring you have the communication habits you need to support your growth, being a great listener and being able to advocate for your needs and your team and other people and things like that. And you need to learn how to collaborate effectively with others, how to really focus your attention and manage your time really well. If you work to master these skills as an individual contributor, they're going to serve you and you'll stand out. And then you'll probably be called upon to become a lead or a supervisor, right? So now, once you're a leader or supervisor, you're going to keep growing in those same areas, but you're going to add new skills like coaching people, delegating, effective feedback, and receiving feedback as well, of course. Actually, that's something we all need to develop all the time. And also, navigating conflict, not just your own conflict, but the conflict between others and things like that. All of those skills are really going to help you in a supervisory role, and they really stand out. So then again, you're good at those things. You may be tapped to become a higher level manager. Maybe you're managing supervisors or you're managing a function or both. And now the needs change again. Because when you really need to understand and embody that strategic thinking skill. You need to learn and know how to develop a team culture and how to create cross-functional alignment between your team and other teams, and how to notice and lead your team through change. These kind of skills become really crucial as you grow in your career. So obviously, all of the skills I've mentioned are going to serve you no matter where you are in your development. But really, we know that as we grow in our careers, we're called upon in new ways, and others are looking to us. And what they're looking to us for changes and evolves. So the key is being really honest about where you are and focusing on the competencies that will have the biggest impact at your current level, while also preparing yourself for the next level. So think about the role you want and start preparing for that now. A strategy number 3 is to create a learning portfolio, not a learning wish list. And this is where my own challenges really come into play and where I really need to put a lid on it because I always have what I think of as a learning wish list, like dozens of books I want to read. You should see my Audible and Amazon wish lists, courses I want to take, conferences I want to attend. Honestly, it's a little overwhelming. And frankly, as I said before, it can be kind of ineffective because I have the tendency or can have the tendency to bounce from one topic area to another. And I know the benefit of really going deep into a topic area. So instead, I now try to really focus my efforts by using what I'm calling a learning portfolio. I choose 1 to 3 specific skill areas to focus on for the year, or even just one at a time. And sure, I still allow myself to explore because I have a lot of interests and I want to explore lots of things. But for each of my portfolio skill areas, I create kind of this multi-tiered approach. Like I think about what I can read or study. Is there a skill that I can implement and practice or a skill set? Is there a person or a course I can learn from? Like who are the teachers I want to follow in this regard? And is there a way for me to get some feedback or create a feedback loop for myself so that I know that I'm learning? For example, since I'm working on AI tools, I listen to an AI podcast in particular. And I've started specific AI focused projects with my team where we're testing certain kinds of things. I'm also part of a learning community that's helping me apply AI strategically. And my team and I have metrics that we're tracking to see if our approach using AI is actually saving us time overall. So having this kind of 4-tiered approach ensures that I'm not just consuming information, but I'm really developing competency. And that makes me feel this amazing sense of progress. Okay, my friends, strategy number 4 is to schedule like you mean it. Here's the truth. If professional development isn't on your calendar, you're likely to just slip it in wherever you can, and you won't get as much out of it. And I know your calendar's already packed, I bet, but think about it this way. If your one-to-ones aren't scheduled, they probably don't happen, right? If project planning sessions aren't scheduled, they don't happen, or they're not as quality, perhaps. And if budget reviews aren't scheduled, either they're not happening or you're not getting the quality from the time that you are spending. So yeah, your one-to-ones aren't scheduled and you fit them in. But when you do it that way, are you getting the same quality of connection? Are you experiencing progress in the same way? Your development is just as important. I really recommend blocking a couple hours a month, maybe 2 to 4 hours a month, specifically for professional development. That might be reading and taking notes about what you're learning, or taking an online course, or having a development conversation with your manager, or just practicing a new skill, like really with intention. And here's a pro tip. Definitely schedule this during your peak energy time, not at the end of the day when you're exhausted, because your growth deserves your best energy, not just the leftovers. So all of that is really helpful for making sure that it actually happens. Also, here's another tip. If you're a reader and you really love books, read 5 to 10 pages a day. It's a very manageable goal, and you can get through a lot of books in a year, but add this to it. Take notes on what you're reading because that really, really helps. Strategy number 5, make it social. One of the biggest mistakes I see leaders make is treating professional development like it's a solo journey. But we know the most effective development really happens in relationship with others. Find a development buddy, like someone who's also really committed to growth, and share your learning goals with each other. Check in on monthly progress, celebrate wins together, and ask your manager to be part of your development journey. Most good managers want to help their people grow, but they need to know what you're working on and how they can support you. You could join or create a leadership book club. Just start reading and talk to people about what you're reading and ask them to read along with you. You can start a discussion group around a skill you're all trying to develop. Because remember, growth happens faster when it happens with others. Okay, now I want to address the elephant in the room, because maybe you're thinking, okay, Claire, this sounds great, but I barely have time to breathe, let alone create a professional development plan. And I hear you. I really do. And let me be honest, making development intentional does require an investment of your time and energy. There'll be days when it feels like just yet another thing on your endless to-do list. But here's what I've seen happen time and again with leaders who make this commitment. First, you start getting better results with less effort. When you develop your core competencies, your work becomes easier, not harder. Second, you start enjoying your role more. There's something energizing about feeling yourself grow and develop. It reignites your passion for work, right? It reignites your passion for why you joined, why you have the career that you have. And finally, you start seeing new opportunities. When you're growing intentionally, you become the kind of person that others want to promote and collaborate with and learn from. So here's what I want you to consider. What would it look like to treat your own development with the same intentionality that you bring to your team's goals or your organization's strategy? What if instead of hoping growth happens by accident, you really designed for it to happen on purpose? So here's some action steps for this week. First, download the professional development planner I created for you. It's free, and it's going to walk you through the exact process I've outlined today. There's a link in the show notes to make it super easy. Second, block 30 minutes this week to just complete those first two sections. Think about where you are now and where you want to go. I want you to get that on your calendar. Third, schedule that first professional development block sometime in the coming month. Put it on your calendar and protect it. Give it the attention it deserves. And finally, tell someone about your development goals. Make it real by making it social. If you tell your manager, then they can support you. If you tell a friend, maybe they'll go with you on your journey. Because remember, real growth can happen by design. You get to be the architect of your own development. So that's it for today. If this episode helped you think differently about your own professional development, go for it. I hope that helps you. And also share this with another leader who might benefit. Don't forget to grab your professional development planner from the link below. Thanks for listening. And until next week, go lead the way. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about my services and for lots of free resources and additional tools to enrich your journey, visit my website and subscribe to my newsletter at clairelaughlin.com. If you have a question about leadership, teams, or organizational culture you'd like me to address on the podcast, please reach out to me at support@clairelaughlin.com and connect with me on social channels @ClaireLaughlin Consulting. Until next time, lead the way.